Hello, this is Natasha Astara from Earth Mother Star Child, and I'm going to talk on this podcast about the winter. We have just entered the winter through the winter solstice on the 21st of December in the UK, and the winter is a very interesting time. Most people in the modern world are quite disconnected from the seasons, perhaps seeing them just as this kind of annoyance that happens to them if they have to scrape ice off their car. But if we really connect back into our roots, our earth roots, and that we are a manifestation of the earth itself, our physical bodies are just like the earth itself, and we go through the cyclic changes in the year, much like all the other plants and animals do. But because we live in a modern setting with electricity and warm houses, most of our food seems to be the same now, so we don't often feel the season change as much as we used to. But I think winter is something that is really important to discuss, because we are beginning to lose touch, or we have lost touch with what the actual benefit of going through the seasons is for our bodies and our minds, and also our spirituality. So I'm trained in Chinese medicine, and the winter relates to the element of water, and the water is about potential. And if you look at some water, in a lake or in the sea, or a little trickle stream or a waterfall, you can begin to see that water comes and manifests in all sorts of different energy ranges. It can have this very much a light quality when it becomes foam on the waves, or it's, becomes mist in the air or fog. It can also have a very heavy quality when it becomes stagnant. You can see that in stagnant pools or canals. And indeed, if we dive deep into the ocean, the pressure, the heaviness of all that water would be so much that it would kill us unless we had some protection around us. So the nature of water is very varied, and there is a lot of beauty in water. We can see our own reflections, we can see the flow, and we can also see the stagnancy, the stagnant nature of things as they become without flow. Like what happens to water when we no longer move, when we no longer see that flowing and we dam it, we stop its flow, that very quickly it generates lots of organisms within it that are like bacteria and other animals and organisms that perhaps aren't what we would consider to be healthy. They become more like a decomposting or decomposing sort of quality, like decay. So essentially, it's important that water is about flow. But also, as we go into the winter, this is the time of the kidneys in Chinese medicine and the bladder. And the kidneys are like our batteries. The essence, our own essence is held in the kidneys, and we release it over our lifetimes. It is the store of our potential as well. So if you can imagine, within us at the moment of conception, we are installed with this vital energy, this essence, which holds within it like the seeds of who we will become, like who we are. And we draw on that throughout our lives as we move through each stage of our development, and how our bodies change, and how we are essentially trying to reach and strive for our goals. So in the same way that we can see a metal quality in a mountain, which is, a very high landmark that we need to climb and strive to reach the top, water can be the opposite. It can be like the cavern, the hidden depths, the diving into one's own potential and looking for those pearls to bring out into the world. So one of the things that as we're going into winter is to look after our kidney energy. So this can mean keeping our bodies warm and making sure that our kidneys are respected while they're in their sort of downtime. They're working very hard at this time of year and beginning to respect and honour the process that's going on around us in nature, which as we look around, nature is actually in the decline. It has been in the decline since autumn, like the whole of autumn, the whole 3 months of autumn. We've seen the leaves disappearing off the trees and the animals going inward, and everything about nature has been cut back, stripped back. It's going into the yin time, and winter is very much the yin. It's an inward time. So often we work through the winter, which is very counterintuitive to what our bodies need. You know, it's getting much darker here in Europe, and we need to go inward to protect our kidney energy. So this means like not going out too much, maybe even not exercising to the extent we were doing, although I know that's tricky during the winter, but getting used to the idea that we're going to eat more heavily and we're going to need more grounding energy. And a lot of this is about reconnecting into the animal self that would have hibernated through these months originally. So one of the reasons that winter is important to go into that yin aspect of who we are is because we are going into the dream time. Essentially, the time where we are finding the seeds within us that we wish to plant in the spring or in preparation for the spring. So this is really a wonderful time for going on an inward journey into self. A journey that is really going to take you into the depth of who you are. And one way you can do this is through stillness. Creating stillness for this journey to begin. Going to bed early. Waking up, if you like, with the sun and maybe meditating. Going for walks in the beauty of nature, particularly looking around at what the trees are doing, the animals are doing at this time of year. Another way is going through into the emotions. So winter, because it is very inward and yin, and we go into places that we have perhaps been avoiding all year and perhaps all of our lives. So going into those spaces. Now, what was I doing this morning when I woke up? Yeah, I had a feeling quite lost actually. And I gave it a name. I called it lostness. And it made me smile because there used to be an event that used to go on in England, like a festival called Lost Vagueness. And that was particularly the feeling I had, lostness. And what I discovered was that if I just embraced the lostness, this emotion, this feeling I was getting, that actually it felt quite nice to just embrace it, to give it a name and go deeper into it. And in that lostness, I found space. And in that space, I began to remember and reconnect with what it was, who I was and that part of me that just liked having space. And I was reminded about what winter feels like. Creating space. Just like we see on the allotments and the fields where farmers work, that those busy plants are all dying back and space is being created. And this, because we're having this in this time of year before the spring, we are creating space for something new. Creating space for our new shoots to come through. So what I would recommend is in this time, find a way to reconnect with those emotions. It's very tempting at Christmas and in the winter to exert oneself, to drink more, to party more, to avoid oneself in all the ways that one can. And I know some people go through very intense depressions in the winter. And I would say, go to a practitioner, get help and support, absolutely. But also allow yourself to drop into the emotions and write about them. Write about your feelings. Express your feelings and emotions. You know, in the same way that I think grief is beautifully expressed through poetry, I think once we get to the winter, it can be a very quiet, silent space. And if you imagine a bear hibernating, but inside dreaming about the potential of the future, the potential of the next year. I see this a lot with pregnant women, actually, that we are in that womb space, we are creating new life, and that is like the seed of intention that is being incubated. And so really, when you are in the winter time, you are in a space of incubating your ideas, your thoughts, your dreams, your intuitions, you know, having a real sense of getting contact with yourself on a very deep level. The kidneys, I mean, this is really your source energy. It was the energy of the spark created when you were brought into the physical, a physical manifestation of your soul light, your soul energy that happened at conception. So the winter time helps you to return to that, to begin to reconnect back into your source light. And, you know, removing those distractions of things, you know, you might be able to look at your life and think, wow, how did I get here? Have I gone off course? Was this really what I wanted? Was this really which was going to be the method of fulfilling my potential here? And is this really what I wanted to do? And coming back into the winter space, where all around you, earth and nature are reconnecting with source, I would very much recommend that you do the same. So don't be afraid of the silence. Don't be afraid of the stillness. And it's interesting that the kidneys often relate to the emotion of fear, where we feel sometimes that the stillness and the darkness, the quietness, the yin space can be very frightening. This can be a journey as we go into the cave. But if we go with willingness and, you know, some self-assurance that we are going to be safe and we will move through this space just like Persephone does as she goes down into the underworld through the winter, we go through this space, and that we will remain there a while in the time as we come through December from the solstice into January, and we come up to Imbolc on the 1st of February. It's not that long, and we always come out the other side. So it's about finding that space, making that space for your 6 weeks of self-intention and seed planting. So I will leave that with you today, and I hope that it provides you some insight into the energy factors of wintertime that you can embrace and really make the most of this space for yourself. So if you're interested in reconnecting with me, I do these podcasts probably a couple of times a week. They're only 15 minutes. I'd love some suggestions and questions about what you'd like me to talk about. Connect up with me on earthmotherstarchild.co.uk or earthmotherstarchild on Instagram, Facebook or Twitter. Blessings to you. May you have beautiful dream time. Namaste.